Thank you to both of you for joining us for this conversation. Let's start with you, Mr. Vavi. How are you responding as Saftu to these devastating unemployment numbers?
We are devastated, we must say, but we're not surprised at all. We have pointed out consistently that we are in a wrong path. And the path we have embarked upon since 1995, 1994 has meant that we simply reproduce unemployment, poverty, and inequalities in our country, and there is no turning point. We've now reached a point of no return, and millions of workers are now crossing the line of being job seekers to just utter hopelessness. The new, or the many now, have now crossed the term of being in the labor market, forced participation into just not economically active at all. The devastating result of this is not just about how we have handled the COVID-19, but it also talks to the economic crisis that is emanating from the wrong economic policies that the government have pursued so religiously over such a period of time.
Sizwe, let me bring you in here. The unemployment rate was always up the roof, even before COVID-19. There was always concerns, and I think even you as Cosatu raised this concern that it appeared that government didn't have an actual plan. Do you trust now? I mean, the president releases a statement this afternoon and says we need to rally together. But do you trust now that there is not only political will, but there's an actual plan that government can implement to deal with this issue of unemployment, kickstart the economy and create job opportunities?
Well, look, we have heard all of those platitudes before. Every time there is a crisis, people tell us that something needs to change. But when you are in a hole, you have to stop digging. Earlier this year, you can go back to the fourth quarter of 2019. Already for the first time, the festive boost failed to actually help the economy to absorb more workers, even on a temporary basis. That was a sign. You would have expected then people who are reading those numbers to actually start to do things differently, to move away from the neoliberal framework that had led us to such a situation. But what did we see? We saw in an austerity strategy in February, the budget that was presented, instead of resuscitating the economy, that budget actually suffocated the economy. So we thought that maybe after the outbreak of COVID-19, sanity was going to prevail. People for the first time were aware that targeting the public service was not a strategy, and that looking at those nurses and public servants carrying the nation during the time of crisis was going to jolt them into action. What did we see during the supplementary budget? More austerity. So really, there's no reason for us to believe that something is going to happen, especially if you listen to what the National Treasury has been saying consistently about the direction that this economy is taking. These numbers, the 51% decline and the latest unemployment figures, there is a report card. The chickens are coming home to roost. We said this in February this year, that this was going to happen. We said if you suffocate an economy where 60% of that economy is dependent on consumer spending, you are going to reap the rewards. Now you have taken money out of public servants' pocket. We are trapped in a cycle because 2 million people now are out of the circulation in terms of their participation in the economy. Now, retailers are going to feel the impact, and they themselves are going to be contemplating a possibility of retrenching.
And that's just going to exacerbate the problem. Mr. Vavi, let me bring you in. What does government need to do then? What does it need to do to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on workers? What are you proposing? We know about the NEDLEC agreement, that economic recovery document that business, labor and government have agreed on. We still don't have the finer details of what that plan actually entails. But are you pinning your hopes on that? What are you proposing needs to happen now?
Not at all. We're not pinning our hopes on that hopeless document. We have had a sight of that document. It is not different to the two other summits that the president had convened on the so-called job summit, nor is it different from the investment summit that he convened. All of these things are an attempt by a government that is in complete denial about the extent of the crisis that our people are facing, that is refusing to dig its head out of the sand, that continues to believe that the path that they have chosen of capitalist system itself that is so exploitative of the working class, neoliberalism that keeps on preaching that the government must play no role in the economy, and thirdly now austerity, that is about cutting so deeply in even the frontline services that the government should provide to the poor. The combination of those things is what have put us where we are. Now, just before I answer your question, our situation is so bad that we now have a Statistics South Africa that itself clearly have no capacity. On one hand, they are saying we have lost 2.2 million jobs. On the other hand, they're saying the unemployment have declined from 30.1% to a 23%. What a nonsense statement is that? What an insult to the millions of people who should at least have a credible institution that is able to define what unemployment is, that is able to count the people who are unemployed. That doesn't just...
But to be fair, Mr. Vavi, did they not explain that? Just to be fair, did they not explain that, Stats say, that the reason you're seeing that discrepancy is because the people that were economically active were not able to look for work because of the lockdown? I think there was an explanation.
Why would you make such a ridiculous statement? 2.2 million workers have lost their jobs, but unemployment have declined from 30% to 23%. Why do you go out and say such a nonsense, absolutely nonsensical statement? So the state of how do we believe anything they will ever say going forward, by the way? How do you make sense of the official Statistics South Africa telling the country that we have lost 2.2 million jobs, but sorry, your unemployment levels have now improved. Yeah, we have moved from it.
Let's go back to that. 20%. Yeah, let's go back to that question you were just about to respond to. What are you proposing at Saftu? What needs to happen now?
We're proposing a total overhaul of the economy itself. This economy must be based on meeting the basic needs of our people. The issues of ownership in the economy must be addressed. The poverty or the property poverty of the majority must be addressed. The land hunger of the majority must be addressed. This thing that our minds, all of them, the entire 142 trillion rands that they were worth in 2011 must be addressed. Okay. Our education system must be overhauled. Our health system must be overhauled. Our criminal justice system must be overhauled. We can't tinker on the sidelines of the problems anymore with the hope that we change anything.
All right, Sizwe, let me give you the last word here. What conversations are you having with your alliance partner, the ANC? You don't seem to have confidence that they have a plan. And this is not just this year. As Cosatu, you've always felt that when it comes to the plan to kickstart the economy and create those job opportunities, the ANC has been lagging on that front. So why are you still even supporting them? And what conversations are you having with them this evening?
Well, look, if you look at the literature coming out of ANC conferences, there's a lot of resolutions, there are a number of resolutions where we have discussed. The issue of land is actually addressed today. You can talk about the role of the Reserve Bank in the economy, all of those issues. What really lacks is that the ANC lacks the fortitude to really be assertive over its own government. The biggest mistake that the ANC committed in its policy conference was to reject a proposal that says the presidents needed to be empowered to actually overrule the National Treasury, especially on issues of budget and economic policy. That is really the biggest weakness, that because We have a national treasury that is composed of neoliberal hardliners. That is indifferent. That is actually bottomless contempt for the poor people of this country. They are not bothered because half of the proposals that are likely to be tabled at NETLEC, they are likely to cut them out and reject them, which is what we're actually anticipating until we confront the reality that we have a national treasury that is a super ministry, that is not accountable, and that is in charge, actually, of this country. Whatever is it that we discuss in various platforms, the reason why things are the way they are, it is because National Treasury is on a totally different...
And the point I'm making, Sizwe, the point I'm making is, I remember interviewing Cosatu leaders many years ago, even when Pravin Gordhan was still the finance minister. Even before then, you have always been unhappy with the trajectory that Treasury was taking. What I'm asking is, why then in 2020, after that unhappiness with the ANC's lack of ability to want to reform structurally the economy to benefit the workers that you represent, why after so many years you are still supporting this party when clearly it appears they're not representing the interests of the workers that you represent as Cosatu?
Well, like I was trying to explain to you, to say you can bring any political party into the framework if you don't address the fact that National Treasury has got the power that it has under the Constitution. National Treasury isn't just being belligerent. It has the power. The reason why the Reserve Bank itself and the National Treasury are acting the way they are is because they are able to defy. And if you have seen, for an example, on few occasions where that power has been threatened, you have seen the real owners of the economy, how they have responded in terms of just threatening the entire economy. The reality here is that we do have a system that is rigged against the majority of the population. So when you have a rigged system, it doesn't matter how...
And the ANC is responsible for that. Let me bring you, Mr. Vavi. You wanted to come in there?
No, absolutely. I'm sorry, Sizwe. We have to disagree with this on this one with Cosatu so fundamentally. This thing of scapegoating the Treasury as if they elected the Treasury to run the country is basically to push their own heads in the sand. There is a Treasury that is appointed by the President. If the President had a political backbone, if that National Executive Committee was the ones that were in charge of the country, they would have long called the Treasury to line, to order, to act according to the mandate they received. It is not true that we have a Treasury that is able to defy the entire National Executive Committee or the President, and that the President is just a weak person who is being pulled by the nose by the Treasury. That's just a statement of denial that unfortunately the police are pursuing an alliance in this context. The butchery of workers not worked.
Mr. Vavi, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but let me thank both of you. Sizwe Pamla, Cosatu spokesperson, and Zwelinzima Vavi, who is with Saftu. Thank you so much to both of you.